Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a really quick recap of my second week of nursing school, mostly going into the results of my first checkoff, which was a really big deal this week. Really that was the biggest thing we did this week. The other big item that we did was we went to our orientation for our SNF experience. SNF, which is acronym SNF, it stands for Skilled Nursing Facility, in other words, a nursing home. So we went and had that orientation last week on Wednesday. This week, I'm making this video on Monday, so this coming up Wednesday, we're going to be actually going in for our actual experience where we're going to be shadowing a CNA or a certified nursing assistant. And we're going to be following them along while they take care of their residents for the morning. And I'm excited. I'm also really nervous. This will be my really first time having any kind of interaction with patients or residents of any kind. So it'll be exciting. It's definitely going to be an experience. I'll let you guys know how that goes after that happens. But this past week, the big thing was checkoffs. So it was nerve-wracking. And sorry if you can hear my kids. They're playing lightsabers right now. So if you hear any kind of noises or screaming, that's probably what's happening. But to say that I was nervous would be an understatement. Basically, we had our first checkoff on vital signs, and that's going to entail oxygen saturation, temperature, um, pulse rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. And so we basically learned how to do these skills the Friday before last. And so we had a full week to practice, and well, as much as you can in a week at school, in lab, and whatnot with your partners. And so last Friday we actually had our checkoff, and I was nervous all week leading up to it. Luckily, by the time that the checkoff actually came, like by Friday, I had been stressed out so much all week. It's all I had really been thinking about. Like, I was doing other things to keep caught up with assignments, but I really wasn't looking too far ahead because I really was just focused on the checkoff. And but by the time Friday came around, like, I was relatively calm. Like, I know for me, when it comes to something that's going to be stressful, like a test or something like that, or more like a speech. I kind of equated the stress to what I feel when I have to do like a public speaking event, or a class or whatever. You have to stand up and give a speech. I get really shaky and I get really nervous and my stomach starts to hurt. And so that's how I was feeling with this checkoff. So it was kind of like you were, giving a demonstration, something I didn't feel super comfortable doing. So no coffee that morning because coffee is just going to exaggerate any kind of anxiety or any kind of stomach ailments you may have. And so no coffee that morning. I was already amped up enough with anxiety that I wasn't tired. Not until afterwards anyway, but in the morning I didn't need any extra help to stay awake. So and I really just tried to, just relax as best as I could, deep breathing exercises. I really do believe in positive affirmations, which are so, like, silly when you think about them, but if you honestly, it's just almost like imagining yourself at the finish line of what you want, and if you just keep saying the things that you want to accomplish, if you keep saying things like, I will pass my checkoffs this week, I am competent in my skills for my checkoff this week, if you just say that to yourself, and as dumb as that sounds, or if you write it on a post-it and put it on your mirror where you're going to see it every day when you get ready in the morning, and if you want to repeat it to yourself when you're getting ready, it just really kind of helps you almost fake it till you make it kind of a thing, where you just think about it enough and it becomes a reality and you feel more confident and you feel a little bit better about the situation. I didn't feel amazing still, don't get me wrong. I still was scared, but I wasn't as nervous as I could have been. And so day of the checkoff, they basically had us grouped off into our clinical section. So there's an odd number of us in my section. So it should be partners, but there's like a trio of me and two other girls who've been working together, practicing our vital signs on each other. And so we had it arranged where, I was going to do one girl and she was going to do the other, and then, vice versa, make a little triangle. And well, I mean, bottom line is I passed my check off. I'm so excited. If I didn't have passed, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. I could have retaken them. They're having actually retakes for the students that didn't pass this week. But you would get, 2/3 the points that you could have got if you passed it the first time. So that's kind of a bummer. Honestly, I got a little bit lucky. I'm not gonna lie. I'll explain the situation. But it really seemed to make a difference who your clinical instructor was and who your evaluator was, which I don't think is very fair. I had a difficult situation when I was doing my checkoff, and I hearing other people who didn't pass, they had similar situations to me, and their evaluators were not sympathetic at all, and they didn't pass because of it. So what happened was the girl in my group who I was practicing with, she had had an elevated heart rate a few times when we were practicing, and the other girl in our group expressed concern that she had a hard time counting her pulse. And so she was like, well, if it's okay with you, could I had taken her pulse a few times, and I was like, well, sometimes it's kind of fast, sometimes it's not, but I can get it. So I was like, I'll have her be my partner, and I'll take her vitals when we go up, and then you can do me. So that was our agreement. And so when we went in there, we actually all went in together, all three of us with the evaluator, and then we just took turns. And I went first. So I'm going through the scenario. We had to go in and we had to perform hand hygiene. We had to come in, introduce ourselves, and then we had to, tell them why we were there, ask to see their pretend wristband, have them verify their name, and then make sure the bed was in a correct position, and then we went ahead and started. And so, I did the oxygen saturation. That was easy enough. That's fine. It's pretty foolproof. I did the temperature, again, pretty foolproof. And then it came down to pulse rate. And so the teacher or the evaluator, basically, I had my partner place her arm over her chest like this, and I counted her pulse. And while at the same time, the evaluator had her other arm and was counting her pulse on the other arm at the same time. And her pulse was so fast. It was crazy fast. It was so fast that I had the most difficult time counting it, and had never been that fast before. I'd always been able to get a good reading on it, even if it was fast, but it was ridiculously fast this time. I don't know if she was just nervous. I'm sure she was nervous as part of it because she had to do her evaluation too in just a couple seconds. And we basically had to do their pulse and then immediately do the respiration rate and then give our evaluator both numbers. So I'm counting her pulse, and to be honest, I kind of lost track of it like while I was counting it because it was just so fast, and it was just really, really hard to like differentiate the beats. And so I just did my best, and then I counted her breaths. I got her breaths right, and then I gave her my pulse, and I told her, I was like, I'm not sure, but I think this is the number I got, which seems really high. And the evaluator was like, well, I don't think it was that high, but it was very difficult to count. And she's like, can I count it again? And then she grabbed her arm and she did it herself again just to make sure. She was more concerned about my partner and her health at that point than me and my pulse rate. And so I was like really nervous. It's like, oh my gosh, like what does this mean? Because if we don't pass, we only have like I think a +or -2 like leeway on the pulse if we were off. And she didn't tell me what she got, but I mean, ultimately, I don't think she was able to get a very good number herself. So she basically said I had a pass on the pulse because her pulse was so difficult. She had a hard time getting it too. And I was just like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. I didn't know, because if I didn't do it a good job with the pulse, then I was done, and I would have failed the rest of it. So I did okay with the respiration. I got the free pass on the pulse, and then came the blood pressure. And then blood pressure also was a sticky situation. I had to take her palpated systolic pressure first, and I got a number, and then that gave me a reference as to where to pump up the cuff to actually take her actual blood pressure reading. And I don't think I pumped it up enough, and the same thing, the teacher was like, we had a teaching stethoscope, so she was able to hear at the same time that I was hearing, and I gave her the numbers, and she said, are you sure that's the numbers you got? She's like, let's try again. And so she pumped it up that time, and I kept listening, and I was like, oh crap, like, did I just screw up again? Like, I got this free pass, and I just screwed up again. And we pumped it up, and her blood pressure was very high, like way higher than we had ever tested it, than we had ever got a reading for before. And when she was doing it, I was watching the meter, and so I made sure I told her the numbers when I heard them. So I was like, maybe this is my second chance. Like, I'm gonna make sure she knows that I know what to listen for. And so I told her about it. She's like, oh, good, you were listening. She's like, okay, yes, that was right. And so I managed to pass with that, even though it was a kind of a modified situation. Like I said, she kind of had to do it a second time, and then the pulse was an issue. So luckily it worked out. Like I said, I really got lucky with my evaluator. She was very understanding and she was very nice, and she helped me through a weird situation. And honestly, that's kind of how it should be, I feel, because when you're working in a hospital taking someone's vitals and you don't get a correct number, it's not the end of the world. It's not black or white. It's not, you're not going to get fired because you didn't get someone's pulse rate accurately the first time. You could just do it again. And that's not how it seemed like for some of my other classmates who had different evaluators. Their evaluators didn't have that kind of perspective on the situation. It was, they had one chance and if they didn't get it right, and they were done, and that was it. So like I said, I was very lucky that who I had what I had, because the situation was not great that I was in. But needless to say, I passed. I'm super excited because that just weight off my shoulders was such a good thing to have alleviated. And that was, yeah, that was the biggest thing from last week. We did a couple other things. We did our lab was about learning about different elimination assistance devices, so bedpans and adult garments, and we had a fecal occult test, and we learned how to administer, and we learned how to remove a catheter. We haven't learned how to put one in yet, but we learned how to remove one. And we also learned how to use a condom catheter, how to place one. So different things like that was another big lab skill we learned. We're not going to we're not going to have like a formal check off on any of those things, but those things that we learned last week. We also had a class about cultural competence and cultural humility, and we're going to have a big project that we have to do regarding a different culture, and so that's something we were introduced to last week as well. But yeah, we are starting this week. I'm officially in my 3rd week now. I just had my Monday class earlier today and got home. So yeah, this week the biggest thing is going to be our skilled nursing facility experience. So that's going to be on Wednesday early in the morning. So I'll be sure to do a video about my experience with that after I do that. I had a few other requests and suggestions for videos to make, so I definitely took all those into account. Thank you guys so much for leaving those in the comments for me, because I don't really know how the videos are coming across, if people really like them, if there's certain content you guys want to see. So again, like I always say, if you have any suggestions for videos or things you want to know more about, let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. But besides that, this video I'm going to make a little bit shorter. I've been making my videos a little too long. So today is a short video, or shorter video anyway. So if you haven't subscribed, please do. If you found this video useful or entertaining at all, please give it a thumbs up. And I will see you guys next week. Bye!